Hey, Babarella, that's a pretty eensy-weensy, teeny-weeny polka dot thingy you got going there. Want to do the monkey with me?
This is Johnny Bravo, and this show was made for 9-year-olds.
Ow. What? Everybody's doing it.
Johnny Bravo first aired in 1995 on Cartoon Network, whose target demographic was and still is 6 to 12-year-olds. Johnny Bravo had talking animals and slapstick comedy galore, just like most of the other shows on Cartoon Network, but with one big difference. The main character's one and only goal was to get a date, and then some.
Oh, Johnny, you are so swell.
Tell me about it. No, I mean really, tell me more about it.
If you grew up watching Johnny Bravo, you might tell someone that he's a big, blonde ladies' man and a womanizer. You might even say that he's misogynistic, outdated, or downright offensive.
Don't you know when you're being insulted?
How about you and me go find an island somewhere and make fishy lips?
But looking back, although women were both Johnny's quest and his downfall, the way they were written makes it seem like this show might have been ahead of its time, a little misunderstood, and would definitely never be allowed today.
Say, you smell kind of pretty. Wanna smell me?
But before we get into today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe to Nerdstalgic so we can continue to make videos for you guys. Johnny Bravo is an animated sitcom about a muscular, sunglasses-clad guy in his 20s living with his mom and being determined to get a date. However, his attempts at wooing women always end in disaster.
Hey, baby.
The show was created by Van Partible and picked up by Hanna-Barbera Productions, who were eventually bought by Cartoon Network. A typical episode of Johnny Bravo consisted of 2 to 3 smaller vignettes where Johnny starts off with a task, which may or may not be related to dating, but inevitably is thrown off course by meeting someone beautiful and doing everything he can to win her over before getting rejected. The show was made in the 90s, heavily influenced by the 70s, and yet keeps hanging around in the cultural memory. It was created by nostalgic adults and perhaps was always intended for nostalgic adults.
I am your second cousin.
Johnny Bravo started out as a dark-haired, meat-eating, woman-obsessed Elvis impersonator when Van Partible created him for a short film in college. After someone sent his short film to Hanna-Barbera, Partible began to develop the character further, but kept the Elvis-inspired voice and town name, Aaron City, as a nod to his original short film. Partible was obsessed with all things 70s. His office at Hanna-Barbera was covered in posters from 70s children's magazine Dynamite. You can see Partible's love of the 70s in Johnny Bravo's animation style, which was inspired by cartoons like Josie and the Pussycats, Star Trek the Animated Series, and Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The 70s limited animation style had relatively plain watercolor backgrounds, simpler art, and thick lines that could be made quickly and be clear enough to balance the often grainy 70s TV.
Don't worry, I don't bite.
Does she?
Cartoon Network was going through an experimental period at the time. Courage the Cowardly Dog's general aesthetic was bizarre and frightening, but kids could relate to being in their grandparents' spooky house, being scared of the unknown, and learning that their fears might not be as scary as they once seemed. They could also obviously relate to the voice-cracking, jawbreaker-pursuing rebellious teens of Ed, Edd n Eddy.
You're trying to fool everyone into thinking it's still summer, aren't you?
The experimentation wasn't that far out of the box. These shows might have had divergent art styles, but they still were about kids and funny animals. Johnny Bravo rejected the 90s popular art style trends and harkened back to a simpler animation style, like the classical limited animation shows that Hanna-Barbera were known for. Bravo also rejected the story themes popular at the time, focusing on storylines that were more relatable to teenagers or, more realistically, young adults. Actually, episodes were ripe with adult content like Johnny looking at centerfolds or denying being a virgin before his failed virgin sacrifice. Remember, intended to be a kids' show.
Justice is served. Hey, Judge Gorgeous, may I please the court?
It played in the same Cartoon Network block as Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and Ed, Edd n Eddy. So, where did these adult jokes come from? Well, maybe not so surprisingly, Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy fame was a writer on Johnny Bravo. Creator Van Partible hired MacFarlane after seeing his final project in school, which was one of the first iterations of what is now Family Guy. Partible said he was the only funny person in class and hired him to be a writer on Johnny Bravo immediately. Just more evidence that Johnny Bravo was meant for adults like all of McFarlane's future endeavors. Surely children did not understand the show's constant references to the 70s, like Donny Osmond as the main villain,
Why don't you jump in the balls?
Why don't you jump in the river?
or 70s icon Farrah Fawcett, with a knowing laugh, remembering the last time she was blindfolded. It is difficult to see how this could have been ever marketed as a kid's show. In many ways, Johnny Bravo should have been marketed in the same way as The Simpsons, full of cultural references, satirical elements, and sexual innuendo. So why wasn't it marketed that way? It seems Johnny Bravo may have been misunderstood. Johnny isn't the big, buff, womanizing hero, he's the lovable loser. He's a narcissist and an idiot. But he's also determined and the butt of every joke, making the audience root for him. Johnny always fails and he never learns from his mistakes. Further showing how Johnny is misunderstood by audiences quick to call him a womanizer, in the episode In Your Dreams, Johnny lets it slip that he has never actually been on a date, which means he's not the ladies' man the audience thinks he is. The satire of the show has been lost if we actually think Johnny is cool. It would be like watching The Simpsons at face value and admiring Homer for strangling his son, sleeping at his job, and consuming copious amounts of donuts and beer. The real message of the show is to make a constant fool of Johnny. The audience should learn from his mistakes and ultimately reject him like the women in his world. While this message seems progressive for the time, Johnny Bravo would never work today for one simple reason. Johnny never changes.
Do you honestly think women are attracted to that kind of macho attitude?
I honestly do, sugar beets.
And there's a glimmer of hope for change in the episode Johnny's Guardian Angel, when Johnny realizes and owns that everyone would be better off if he had never been born, but ultimately doesn't learn or change. The format of Johnny Bravo doesn't allow for much of a series arc for its characters, which many kids' shows today do. Shows like Gravity Falls are marketed towards children, with lessons focusing on sibling teamwork, but also offering something special, wacky, and colorful. The entire story across both seasons is connected from start to finish in a serialized fashion while also having an episodic lesson that is taught through uncovering a mystery plaguing the town. Johnny Bravo wouldn't be made today for many reasons, one of them being his non-stop harassment of women, but also its resistance to the main character's growth. Some of this is a plot device. If Johnny learns and grows, then the show would inevitably have to end. As soon as the main character reaches their goal, the story is over. So Johnny can never get a girl.
Hey, baby, I know what you're thinking. How did the statue get off its pedestal?
But is there any merit lurking in its slapstick and repetitive nature? When looking at the writing of Johnny's attempted conquests, we see women being portrayed as intelligent, driven, and goal-oriented. Many of his romantic or sexual pursuits were women in glass-ceiling shattering careers: scientists, doctors, computer programmers, sea captains, spies, and other male-dominated roles. If we listen to the messaging consistently, we see that although women are the antagonists to Johnny's quest, it's because Johnny was blocking the goals of brilliant woman after brilliant woman. The show was a commentary on how not to treat women. Just like in the episode The Sensitive Male, where a man attempts to teach Johnny about sensitivity and depth being the key to a woman's heart through a 70s Schoolhouse Rock-esque song, it's making fun of guys who act like Johnny and how they're missing out on interesting women by whittling them down to nothing but their appearance.
It'll get that girl out of your dreams and into your car. Try it, Johnny.
Fans of Johnny Bravo will lament, "I wish he could have gotten the girl for once." Are they missing the point, or have the writers just truly created the most lovable loser of all time? Van Partible jokes that since he came up with Johnny Bravo while on a silent retreat, that maybe he really is God's gift to women like Johnny believes himself to be. But maybe the actual gift is watching smart women stand up for themselves and reject uncomfortable and unwanted advances with the slapstick humor of slapping around a delusional buffoon. So sure, the character of Johnny Bravo can be stupid, misogynistic, and downright offensive.
A lady, doctor? Has science come that far?
But the show Johnny Bravo might be teaching us a lesson about showing those beauty pageant contestants, those doctors, and those submarine captains a little sensitivity. Whoa, mama, indeed. And well, that's all we have this week. What do you think about Johnny Bravo? Is there anything we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please subscribe in order to stay up to date with everything Nerdstalgic. Later.